Oh, hello there, yes. I thought we'd have another kind of mix and match, another kind of potpourri, a bit like yesterday. These examples I'm going to give you from right-wing media, I think really do show the kind of lack of awareness, the deliberate lack of awareness of the world that they create and live in at the same time. I'm just going to give you like 4 examples here. They really are quite laughable when you actually take one step back and look at what's being presented to you. Anyway, first up, I'm going to give you Mr. Doyle and his Free Speech Nation. Let's see what he was up to about a day ago. Yeah.
Free speech on university campuses remains a big talking point, with concerns that students are prevented from learning about difficult or contentious topics due to a rise in trigger warnings and cancel culture. 2 students were so determined to fight such forces that they set up Speak Easy, a student-led pro-free speech movement which is going from strength to strength. And on Wednesday night, the organisation will host its first event, a debate in Parliament on the motion, do private companies have the moral authority to censor legal online speech? So here to tell us more, I'm delighted to welcome Omar Lubak and Jack Barwell.
Yes, well, there you have it. There's a lot of talk about this, and various people are quite concerned. No, mate, it's just you and Toby Young and a handful of other people that just keep this thing going. As I pointed out yesterday, Office for Students has reported that free speech is not an issue on campuses, but that doesn't really matter in your world, does it, Andrew? You're still going to keep banging on about it. And here we have a couple of grassroots, just very ordinary members of the Conservative Party, libertarian boys, well on their way already, and Jack, that we can see here, is already working for a Tory MP, so they're well on their way to being SPADs. Very, very grassroots movement, don't even have a website yet, and yet their first gig is in Parliament. Obviously, courtesy of Baroness Fox. Yes. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is a stitch-up. Yeah, I am, because it patently is. Anyway, that's our first example, things that only exist in Andrew Doyle's head. And when they don't exist in reality in any way, shape or form, he'll simply go way out of his way to make them real, like he does with his mate Glinner. Right, moving on. Next we have Lawrence Fox. Yeah, with a great tweet from yesterday, London's last line of defence, the Blade Runners. And the reason why I'm flagging this one up is he, along with a lot of other people on GB News, are quite happy with people that break the law, so long as they break the laws in the right way. Now, Loza Fox is bound to stand for Parliament again, and I'm willing to bet that he doesn't give any interviews whatsoever where someone will say to him, yeah, but didn't you support people breaking the law? Because, you know, that's the universe he lives in. It's fine for him just to come out outright and say, oh, I'm pretending to be an upstanding member of the community, and to hell with Ofcom rules or anything else. Why don't you go out and break the law? Yeah? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, as if such a thing is real. And of course, there are no accountability whatsoever for the posh boys, are there? That's example number 2. Let's come on. Oh, this is my favourite indeed. Yeah, Julia Hartley-Brewer, who, I mean, this is astounding level of not actually existing in any form of Julia Hartley-Brewer reality, right? The Google search engine has turned 25 years old. When one company has so much power that can become a really big issue when we see the censorship of completely legitimate and valid debate over things like lockdown and COVID. Yes, imagine, Julia, right, if there was a huge media conglomerate in this country that was, I don't know, let's say run by just, I don't know, one person, maybe, Fantasyland, some sort of Australian non-dom 90-year-old guy who just dictated British politics. That would be a huge issue, wouldn't it? Thank God you don't exist in that universe. Astounding. And again, she really won't take any prisoners whenever anyone points those things out, because it gets a bit tetchy. Anyway, the last one up is, yes, Isabel Oakeshott, who, is included here because it's yet another GBer, if you like, isn't it? Yeah? Feckless councils, this is from the Telegraph, feckless councils are ripping taxpayers off. Our bloated, unaccountable public sector has a total disregard for money it wastes and the misery it wreaks. And it's worthwhile actually reading this because what she's complaining about is that when certain groups are allowed to get on with things, like private companies are allowed to get on with things, they get on with them. Well, the thing is, Isabel, that what you're really moaning about is planning laws in the UK. And we had a time in the past when planning laws, with things like compulsory purchase, etc., back, I remember going up north in the 80s and seeing a lot of what we used to call planning blight in those days, right? Okay, where entire neighbourhoods have been razed. You just used to get the pubs standing individually because they cost too much to buy out. That kind of thing, right? Okay, we used to have that. Things used to get done. And then Margaret Thatcher came along, and the whole tendering process, as well as the NIMBYism of planning regulation, put a complete stop to it. So there you are, propping up the organisations that you're actually complaining about. We could go back to having councils being allowed to do things, but you wouldn't like that, would you? No, that would be the wrong sort of doing things, wouldn't it? And I'm going to give you a bonus one, which is Andrew Bridgeton, okay? People really need to think about what sort of society and world they want for themselves and their children. And he's, posted up on Twitter with this particular image. Now, disobey and it will be over. I've looked this up. All right, okay. It's someone has, I believe this is what this is, right? Someone has sent him this picture, and I think he's decided to reprint it because, as far as I can make out, Fernando del Real is a footballer. So I don't understand where the woman paint slogan come from. But Andrew Bridgeton, yes, indeed, we really need to think what sort of society and world we want for ourselves and our children. Yes, a man who is quite happy to sit in Parliament without any form of by-election, so no nods to democracy there whatsoever, and a man who will go down probably as a footnote in history of basically wanting to get rid of sex education in schools, because that was what his private members' bill was effectively about. It was about children, or in his view anyway. And again, existing in a world whereby he's just going to sit there in Parliament doing favours for his mates, the hedge fund managers at GB News, by putting things on the order table, and he has no mandate for it whatsoever. And yet, at the same time, he presents himself as this out there rebel, as indeed they all do. They all, as I've often said in these cases, they like to think of themselves as these out there punk rockers, but we all know that their bondage trousers have been ordered by mail. Anyway, do have a lovely Tuesday. I managed to work in education yesterday without getting killed by concrete, so I'm going to chalk that up as a victory. I need to think about myself and the children. I need to do that. Anyway, do have a lovely day.